WrestleMania 38 Night 1 has happened Saturday night, and it was actually quite entertaining. You know, I shit on the build to WrestleMania, and I would shit on it again if given the chance because, you know, the TV products for wrestling, both WWE and AEW, not great. You know, they're just boring products on TV, and I think they could do better at storytelling consistently. Or you know what it is? They need to just move stories along faster or something. I have the same arguments with soap operas. But WrestleMania, let's talk about it. You know, it didn't start off as hot. We had the Usos versus Bugs and Shinsuke, and Rick Bugs got injured pretty quick in the match. He tore his quad, so he's gonna be out at least half a year probably. So hopefully a speedy recovery for him. So that match, you know, not the best start to the show. But then we had Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios. And Logan Paul brought it in the ring. He clearly trained. He's clearly athletic. We've had celebrities lately, if they came in, they've been doing a pretty good job at wrestling. And he also was one of those people that came in and put on a good show. They even told a story in the match with him being quite the heel, mocking Eddie Guerrero with Mysterio and all that. Him and Miz pick up the win, but then Miz turns on him. And I don't know if they're going to be able to turn Logan Paul face or give him a future face with Miz being the heel. I think that's a bad idea. I think it would have to be the opposite if that's what they're setting up. Another thing I liked after that match, Miz goes to celebrate in the audience, and Mark Long from Real World and The Challenge is in the audience, which I thought was, you know, things colliding. I talk about The Challenge on this channel. I talk about wrestling. And, you know, there's a history there with Miz and Mark Long, so I thought that was pretty funny and cool. Maybe that's what they're setting up. It's going to be Miz and Mark Long versus the Paul brothers. Old reality television versus YouTube reality television. That's what I would set up. That's would be my booking idea. Even though Mark Long is old, but he looks great. He looks younger than his age. Then when the show really got hot, we had Bianca versus Becky. They put on quite the show. I've talked about how this was the only Mania match with a proper build because they were able to use the bad booking at SummerSlam and turn it into a storyline, a long-term storyline, which is not something we see from the WWE often. But they pulled this one off, and it had the big match feel. You know, I saw some people saying that this should have been the main event because it had that big match feel. I would normally agree, but the main event was what it was, and we will talk about that greatness when we get to that. But Bianca and Becky had a good match. Becky's desperation came through in the match. They built up Bianca as the super baby face, although that can be a bad thing in the future if that's what she keeps being built as, because, you know, we saw what happened with Cena after a while. Fans turned on him or wanted to turn on him. But for now, I'm glad that Bianca gets a second WrestleMania moment after main eventing with Sasha. Last year, she wins a title in back-to-back WrestleManias. The only other person to do that, and I don't know if this stat is correct, but I read it, is The Undertaker. So that's a big name to be back-to-back with at WrestleMania for Bianca. But Bianca is a star, and she gives her all at WrestleMania. Becky gave her all as well. They put on a solid match, and that was followed up by more solid WrestleMania, another solid WrestleMania moment. Cody Rhodes coming back from AEW, being Seth Rollins' mystery opponent. They have Cody Rhodes coming back as the American Nightmare, the character he's built up on the Indies and Impact and ROH and AEW. And this was another great WrestleMania moment because Cody did what he said he was going to do when he left the WWE. He hated playing Stardust, even though I think Stardust was actually a good character, but whatever. He left and said he was betting on himself and he would build himself up. And that is what he did. He went to the Indies, had his own gimmick that he got over. Got it over in ROH, and then he was a founder of AEW. And I see people wanting to give AEW credit and saying, well, Cody came back a big star because of AEW. And that is partially true, but Cody came back a big star to WWE because of himself. He got himself over, he built his own character, and I wasn't even that fond of him in AEW because AEW did not know how to book him. I don't know if that was Cody's own fault or if that was Tony Khan's fault. Probably a mix of both. So now he goes back to the machine, and the AEW fans are... they are falling apart at the seams on Twitter, hating on Cody Rhodes, calling him a traitor because he went back to the machine, because after years of raging against it. And I don't know, I find it funny. Because, you know, AEW has all these debuts from the WWE and everybody acts like it's the biggest thing for AEW. And now the opposite happens and it's just such a bad thing. So, the wrestling fans have been conditioned to think WWE is evil, which it is, can be very bad, and that AEW is the savior, but it's just not the case. They put on a great match as well. Rollins and Cody Rhodes maybe told the best story of the night, and that's another reason why I think night one of WrestleMania worked, is because the matches actually told stories themselves. And this was no different. Cody Rhodes got to do have a little Stardust moment to shed that skin. There was the tease of the pedigree after all the shit Cody talked about Triple H. There was Cody Rhodes giving like a tribute to his dad, Dusty, during the match. It worked out very well. It was a great match and a great WrestleMania moment for Cody. Now, do I have faith that creative and WWE can follow up on this with Cody? No. I don't think they can, because as I've stated, the build to WrestleMania wasn't great, and it just shows that the creative on the TV shows just isn't good. So I don't have faith for Cody's follow-up in the company, but we'll see. Maybe they'll prove it wrong. I mean, the story writes itself. He could be the Rhodes to finally win the title. I think it could take a while to get there, and I don't hate that it will take a while to get there, but I just hope that they have a decent follow-up for Cody. Because that's this one of the bigger stories coming out of WrestleMania is going to be Cody Rhodes. All right, and then up next, the show took a bit of a dip because of the Ronda Rousey Charlotte Flair match. It went on too long. It dragged. And this match was hurt by the terrible build for this match. The build just didn't work because Ronda's not good on the mic. They need to give her a mouthpiece or something. So yeah, this match was kind of killed the momentum for a while. I didn't like it. But I did like the booking that Charlotte beats Ronda, because I don't think anybody expected that to happen. I don't know if I would necessarily have booked it that way though, but I like the unpredictability of that outcome. Something AEW struggles with is unpredictability. And then last was the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, I said I didn't think he was going to have a full-on match, but I was wrong. Kevin Owens goads him into a no-holds-barred match, and Austin is taking actual bumps. He took a suplex on the cement. He got shoved into the ring post. Look, this wasn't the most technical match ever, but it was a Stone Cold match ever, the most technical match ever. No, it was a brawl, and it was matches that just made you believe wrestling, back when wrestling actually still had psychology. And yes, this was just a lot of kicks and stomps and punches and suplexes, a lot of basic wrestling, but it just shows that if you're over... I mean, and nobody's as over as Stone Cold. Stone Cold is the greatest of all time when it comes to being over, and just when it comes to watching wrestling, honestly. This was entertaining. This was fun. This was the most fun I had watching a match in a very long time. probably a decade or more. So yeah, I enjoyed the main event. I enjoyed Austin taking a stunner and then winning with the stunner, of course. That had to be the way you built the match. And they did it, what needed to be done. So they ended the night on a high note with Stone Cold returning for a match. It was great. I don't know how Night 2 tops that. I don't think it does. I said on one of the last Pro Wrestling Diagnosis that Night 1 seemed to have more of the better things on paper to be entertaining. I feel like Night 2 is a lot of fodder outside of Roman versus Brock. Like, I think Edge and AJ Styles could have a good match, but like, I don't think Night 2 is going to be even half as entertaining as Night 1. But Night 1 showed that the WWE can still put on a good WrestleMania, a good event when they need to, and they did. It also showed me that AEW has a long way to go. You know, they have some momentum, but I still question a lot of the booking, and just that a lot of the TV shows remain slow and boring when it comes to the storytelling. Like, a lot of Dynamites are better than Raws and SmackDowns. I will say that, because Raws and SmackDowns just tread water at all times. They don't really move stories either. So AEW can bring it more than Raw and SmackDown. But the storytelling still needs a lot of work, because AEW has yet to really create a star. As we see with Hangman Page, it didn't work. Him just being AEW champion isn't working. And the argument could be made that they've even hindered CM Punk's star power so far because of the way they book, like it's a real sport. Well, WWE shows they can still put on a more entertaining product at big events than AEW. That is where I stand after Night 1 of WrestleMania. I probably won't talk about Night 2 of WrestleMania because, frankly, I don't care about Night 2 of WrestleMania. Everything I cared about was on Night 1. But I enjoyed Night 1 immensely. It had a lot of great moments, and Stone Cold just cemented himself as the GOAT.